Hey, welcome back to Ask a Creationist. I'm Todd Wood. I'm president of Core Academy of Science. I am a young earth creationist, and I am here to answer your questions about creation, about science, about culture of creation and evolution, and so forth. Now, this week's question follows on to a series of questions that I've been doing here that started with how much evolution can creationists accept? And that was followed by evolution never really happened, right? I noticed there were a number of people who responded to this question by simply asserting evolution is an anti-God, anti-creation speculation designed to justify atheism. So evolution is just atheism. Don't you agree with this claim? Well, to be honest, no, I don't, for a number of reasons. Let me see if I can walk you through some thought on this matter. First of all, if I want to know what evolution is, I'm going to look at what the evolutionists actually say about it. And so here is Mark Ridley's textbook on evolution. This is the third edition. Evolution means change in living things by descent with modification. Pretty straightforward. It's a theory of biological origins, of the diversity of life. It is a theory that talks about why we have horses and donkeys and whales and bugs and such. All those sorts of things. Notice it doesn't have much to do with the origin of life. It doesn't really have to do with geology. It doesn't really have to do with the universe. We can talk about evolution in those realms in sort of a colloquial manner, talking about the evolution of stars or the evolution of planets or whatever. But ultimately, when it comes to what biologists think of when they think of evolution, they think about change over time by living things based on descent with modification. Now, why is it important? Why would I ever go to an evolutionist to define evolution? Well, here's a good reason. Check out the same textbook's definition of separate creation. Here it says the theory that species have separate origins and never change after their origin. I honestly don't really know any serious creationists who believe that. And this actually is a pretty decent textbook. This one doesn't go out of its way to make fun of creationists. So, and even still, it gives this definition that I just think, I don't know what that is. I don't know who thinks that. It's very strange. It's very odd. And so when we think about talking to other people, if that's what he thinks creationists are, he's going to have a hard time talking to me because I don't think those things. And if I'm going to define evolution as atheism, I'm going to have a tough time talking to him about research and evolution and biology because I just sort of shrug my shoulders and think you're just an atheist being an atheist. It's not helpful. There's really no communication going on. And really what it comes down to for me is the golden rule, right? So Jesus says, whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Notice here the law and the prophets there referring to the Old Testament, which was the Bible for Jesus. He sums up the Word of God. He sums up the Bible as do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think that's really, really significant. So if I want to be taken seriously, if I want someone to listen to me seriously and hear what I have to say, and accept my testimony about what I believe, then I really ought to do that to them too, even if they're evolutionists. But, you say, scientists deliberately exclude God from their explanation. How is that not atheistic? Right? I mean, atheism is all about excluding God from science, and here it is, they're always doing it, excluding God from science. So how is that not actually atheism? Well, I think that's a good point. It's called naturalism, really. And it goes by a number of different varieties. There's sort of philosophical naturalist who thinks there's nothing but the physical reality. There is no spiritual world. There's the sort of methodological naturalist who just assumes there's no spiritual world in order to do science, right? So they sort of exclude the spiritual explanation from science. I think that's a really problematic claim. Either way you go. As a Christian, myself, I don't think I can buy into either one of those claims. That leaves me with some serious concerns about the construction of science based on naturalism. But saying this person is biased is not the same. It does not mean that this person is always wrong. It simply means they have an agenda. They're saying things for a reason that isn't just about evaluation of the evidence. And why is it important to think about this? Well, because we're all biased. Saying this person is biased really isn't saying much of anything, because we're all biased, right? I have biases. Some of my biases are big and philosophical and theological. I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. Those things are really important to me, and I've deliberately chosen to believe in them. And I have unconscious biases. I just assume certain things. I often assume people think the way I do. They don't. I think that people prefer to buy the sorts of things I do. They don't. Bias riddles everything that we do. So to say that bias equals lying, no, that doesn't make any sense. Bias just means I'm biased. So what should we do? Well, I think the first thing we do is, of course, consider the source. I don't think that acknowledging that we're all biased means that somehow we're hopeless for understanding truth. It simply means you have to consider the source. What is this person saying? But consider the source does not mean that I just say, well, he's an atheist and I can't believe anything he says. The second part then is examine the claim. What is it that he's actually saying? And examine the evidence and decide rationally, logically, has the bias influenced the claim? As in the case where science must be done atheistically, I would say that's a bias and that's unacceptable. And it doesn't even make sense to me. But in other cases, if an atheist tells me this beetle is a certain scientific name, I don't care. Okay, great. That's what that is. I don't see why there would be any real bias in that, although I can imagine various scenarios. Just don't email me. All right. Most important part of this, of course, is that this goes for everyone. And this is the really challenging thing. It is so easy for me to be critical with people who disagree with me. And I want to examine their biases and I want to examine their claims and be really careful about what it is that they're saying. It's very, very, very hard to be critical about people that I would automatically agree with. To critically examine statements made by people that I assume are on my side. That's harder to do. It's much, much harder to do. And it's really hard to do it to myself. Am I just saying this because I want it to be true, or am I saying it because I have good evidence and good arguments? And that's the essence of becoming a really good scientist, is when you can sort of examine yourself and critically evaluate what you want to claim and have the humility to say, well, we might not know everything we want to know in this instance. And that's really important. It's really important to mature that way as a scholar. And I think it's really important for all of us to think about these things rather than simply saying that evolution is atheistic, anti-God speculation versus creationism is just religious nutjob bias garbage. Those things really aren't true, neither one of them. It's important for us, if we're going to move forward as a culture and as a society, we need to wrestle with the actual content of the claims. And that's hard to do. That requires hard work, which I think is one of the reasons why no one wants to do it. So hey, if you've enjoyed this video, thanks for watching. Give it a like if you like. Subscribe if you want. Click that bell in order to get notifications if you're really into it. Check us out on the web, coursei.org. Click on the donate link to give us a donation. We'd love that. As you know, it's been a tough time for nonprofit organizations here during the shutdown. We have been affected like everybody else. We would appreciate your support. And you can check out our social media links from there. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.